Hi and welcome back. In this video we're going to go ahead and set up and begin creating our second project site for Ourtown Country Market. Now you can see here I have Dreamweaver open, and in case you haven't watched some of my other videos, I want to show you just a couple things before we actually begin on the setup. One is how to work with this right hand panel section right over here. You're going to notice that mine may look very different from yours. Mine are just buttons that I click on. And you can change that by expanding and collapsing this panel section. You do that by clicking this double-headed arrow here in the upper right-hand corner of this section. And when I click that, you'll see those panels open up. If I click it again, they close. Open, close. And the reason why I keep them closed like this is it gives me more space here in my work area to actually see the document that I'm working on. But you can go ahead and expand or collapse those depending on what you prefer. Also notice there are different tabs in these different panel sections here. And as I click on the different tabs, you'll see they open up and show me different things. And eventually you can have just a whole bunch of things open up. You don't have room for the things you work with all the time. So you may want to collapse some of these individual panels. And you do that just simply by double clicking on one of the tabs here. If I double click on Tag Inspector right here, you'll see how that collapses. And I'll double click on Insert and Browser Lab. And now I have more space for my Files panel right here. And again, I'm going to go ahead and click that double-headed arrow to collapse that. You can do the same thing with your Properties panel right down here. You can expand and collapse that, or the Search panel as well. So just a few things about the Dreamweaver interface before we get started. Now, let's go ahead and create the site that we're actually going to put our project into. You're going to need to go ahead and minimize Dreamweaver. Now, I'm working right here from my desktop, but if you prefer to keep things in your My Documents folder or somewhere else, that's perfectly fine as well. What I need to do is I need to right-click here on my desktop, select New and Folder. And if you're on a Macintosh, again, you know how to create a new folder wherever you're at. Just go to the File menu and select New Folder. And I'm going to give this folder a name. I'm going to call it Project 2 Ourtown Working Copy. And again, I called mine Working Copy to differentiate it from the finished version that I have right here. So I just needed to create a folder to place my website inside of. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring Dreamweaver back up here. And I'm going to go to the Site menu and select New Site. And this dialog box here is going to come up. And we need to give the site a name. You can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it Project 2 Ourtown, oops, spell it correctly, Country Market Working Copy. And then I have to select the local site folder to place this website in. And that's going to be the folder that you just created. And again, I put it on my desktop. You know wherever you placed your folder. So I'm going to go ahead and click here on this little yellow folder icon. And I'm going to go ahead and scroll down until I find Project 2 Ourtown Country Market Working Copy right there. I'll double click on that. And make sure it says select and the name of your folder right up here. And I'll click select and then save. And you can see now all the files and all the folders that are inside of this project. Again, obviously it's empty because we haven't begun to work with this yet. Now, you need to go ahead and create a set of basic files and folders every time that you get started with a new web project. For example, you're going to need a new folder for CSS, a new folder to hold your JavaScript, a new folder for images, so on and so forth. And you create new folders in Dreamweaver simply by right-clicking and selecting New Folder and giving it a name. The same thing is true with files. You right-click and select New File. You give the file a name like index.html, and you've created a web page. I'm going to go ahead and right-click on both of these and delete them. And I'm going to go ahead and go to my Files panel here, and I'm going to select my framework folder. And you're going to see a folder here called Site Start CSS Based. And I'm going to click the plus sign to the left of that, and you're going to see that there's a whole bunch of things inside of that folder. What you want to do is select everything inside of it. So I'm going to select CSS, hold the Shift key down, and then click on Main. I'll then right-click, select Edit and Copy, and then I'm going to come back into my project folder, right-click right here at this top level, Edit and Paste. And that's going to paste those basic folders and files in place. And again, you can create these individually for yourself, or you can go ahead and grab them from my framework. And a couple things we're not going to need here. We're not going to need Timothy.js. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And we're not going to need print.css. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that as well. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to create each one of these top level folders, and then create these folders inside of your images folder here. I'll talk about jQuery in this mail form a little bit later. You need to create a file and call it styles.css inside of the CSS folder. And then again, right inside of the root folder, we need to create two HTML pages, one called index and another called main.html. And again, you accomplish all this by right-clicking and selecting New File or New Folder inside of Dreamweaver. And the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and add the images that we're going to need for this project to my images folder. And again, if you haven't downloaded the completed version of this project, you won't have these images at this point. But as we go through the project, I'm going to tell you how to create these images. So you can use any program you want, like Fireworks or Windows Paint, to create your own images. So again, you don't need these, but they are helpful if as you're working through the series. I'm going to go ahead and minimize Dreamweaver here, and you're going to see I have a folder here called Ourtown Images. I'm going to go ahead and double click on that to open it on up, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a select all. I'm going to right click and copy all these, and then I'm going to go into my project folder. I'm going to go into my images folder, and then I'm going to right click and select paste. It's going to ask you if you want to overwrite this icons folder, and that's fine. Go ahead and click yes, and it will add those images in there. I'll close that and bring Dreamweaver back up, and again, if you don't have those images, I'll be telling you how to create them. And when we look in our files panel, you'll see all the images that we're going to use for this particular project here. If you add the images and you don't actually see them in here, just simply click this button right here that says refresh, and the images should appear. And again, I'm going to click on the word files here to collapse that panel. So we now have a project folder set up with our individual folders created that we're going to need to organize our website content, as well as an index and a main.html for us to begin creating our sample page layouts. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and actually begin to create the page layout for this project. If you took the Introduction to Dreamweaver course, you'll remember we basically go through 3 phases in setting up a website or a web page. The first phase is creating the page structure. And that's the HTML that's going to structure your individual web pages. The second phase is adding content to that structure, adding the text, the images, the links, the menu items, all the content that you're going to need to that structure. And then the third phase was going to be writing the CSS that actually formats and presents or lays out your actual pages. So we're going to be using those again, those three basic steps. First, setting up the HTML structure. Second, adding content to our structure. Third, creating the CSS that gives us the formatting of the layout so the pages look the way we expect them to when they come up. So again, in the next video, we're going to go ahead and begin to set up the HTML structure for this site. I'll see you in the next video.